Once again, you already know what it is, and you already know where you have reached. It is Sunday, February 26, 2023. And what an epic day. Just getting home from church, giving God the praise, man. But I had to jump online, had to watch on demand, check out Fury versus Paul. And I am not ashamed or afraid to say, I told you so. I told you so. Jake Paul receives the first loss of his professional career, and I cannot say that I am surprised. It's no surprise to me. He is now 8-1 as a professional, 6-1 as a professional. And again, I'm not surprised, man. It's just one of those things where when you keep testing the waters and you keep going back to the well, eventually that well is going to run dry. I told the world, I told my co-host on Clash of the Podcast, Conrad Cushman. Make sure you check us out on the EPW YouTube channel tomorrow night, 6:05 Monday nights. We're going to talk about some good stuff tomorrow. I told my good friend Joel from Fight TV. I told everybody, man, listen, right here, Hubbard Wrestling Weekly Podcast, I predicted that Paul would lose this match, that Jake Paul would lose this fight, and he certainly did. It was a major, major step up in class. Some people were very, very impressed with Jake Paul. And I'll admit, I was somewhat impressed with Jake Paul. I felt like Jake Paul really showed the world that he's somebody to be somewhat taken seriously, especially after 2 consecutive wins over Tyron Woodley, the former UFC world champion. But I'm telling you guys, when he signed to face Tommy Fury, I said, he may have bitten off more than he can chew. And I was right. We all know that this fight was delayed a couple of times because of some extenuating circumstances. Tommy Fury's situation and Jake Paul's situation. It was a fight that was rescheduled twice, but we finally had it today in Saudi Arabia. It was a situation where you had Jake Paul undefeated coming in, going up against Tommy Fury, who was also undefeated coming in. People don't realize Tommy Fury came into this fight with a record of 8-0, 4 knockouts. So it wasn't like he was fighting some, as the late, great Bobby the Brain Heenan would say, some ham and egger. He came in and he was ready, and he was ready to prove to the world that he deserved to be respected as the true fighter in this match. Now, again, I'm not going to sit up here and disrespect Jake Paul. I did predict that he would lose, and he did. But I'm not going to disrespect Jake Paul. Knocking out Tyron Woodley, that is impressive, okay? There's no question that that is impressive. I'm not going to sit up here and say it's not. Beating Ben Askren, beating the legend, Anderson Silva. But here's the thing about that. I'm not even going to mention Nate Robinson. Much respect to Nate Robinson, the 3-time slam belt champion for my team, the New York Knicks, but he should have never been in a boxing ring. Bottom line, when you're talking about Tyron Woodley and you're talking about Ben Askren, and you're even talking about the legend, Anderson Silva, they are not boxers. They are tremendous, amazing world championship, in Anderson Silva's case, Hall of Fame level mixed martial artists, but they are not boxers, ladies and gentlemen. I don't understand why people are not getting that. Anderson Silva is not a boxer. Love the guy. He's a legend in MMA, but he's not a boxer. Tyron Woodley, world champion in UFC, but he's not a boxer, ladies and gentlemen. What part of that don't you understand? I don't understand why people were so saying that Jake Paul's going to knock out Tommy Fury. Tommy Fury's a real fighter, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not saying this to kind of big him up even more. He's the brother of the heavyweight champion of the world, Tyson Fury. That doesn't really mean much, but it does mean it's in his blood. And he was 8-0 coming into this fight. 8-0. Why are we sitting up here acting like we don't understand that Tommy Fury is a legitimate boxer? Legitimate. Beating guys like Anthony Taylor and Jordan Grant on his way to his undefeated record. This guy's trying to get himself into a position to get a title shot, y'all. And you guys are sitting up here saying that, there were so many people that were truly believers that Tommy Fury would lose this fight. I'm not one of them. This is somebody who's trying to put himself in a position to become the cruiserweight champion, light heavyweight champion possibly. He wants to put himself in a position to win a title. And he knew that losing to Jake Paul would be a career bad thing. It would be something that would derail his career in a major way. And Tommy Fury wasn't having it. Now, I will say this. The entire boxing world has to recognize that Jake Paul was good for buy rates. I will never take that away from him. And so is his brother Logan. The Paul brothers have put themselves in a position where they are almost must-see TV. They do very well in pay-per-view numbers. So you can't really say that they haven't accomplished that. But here's the problem. With somebody like Jake Paul cannot afford a loss. There's so many people that doubt him and so many people that don't believe that he's a legitimate fighter. I'm not going to go as far as say he's not a legitimate fighter. I just don't think he should be fighting somebody the caliber of Tommy Fury. And today he proved why. But when you talk about, Jake Paul is not in a position where he can afford to lose. He has to be undefeated to continue to be a box office attraction. And my question to you now is, what happens now? What happens now? He is no longer the undefeated problem child, ladies and gentlemen. He is now lost. And will he ever regain the luster and notoriety that he once had? Yes, he's a multimillionaire. Yes, he's a YouTube sensation. Yes, he's appeared in WWE with his brother Logan. Yes, he's all over the world. One of the most recognizable names. He's made a tremendous name for himself. But as a boxer, he had to be perfect. I hate to say it. I'm not saying he would have went out and, rivaled like Floyd Mayweather going 50-0. But he had to remain undefeated to maintain that notoriety and to maintain that luster that would make people want to buy his fights on pay-per-view. Does this loss send him right back to the drawing board? I think so. And on the contrary, Tommy Fury is now putting himself in his position where he's one of the most recognizable names. He knocked off Jake Paul. Yes, people had questions about Jake Paul and his validity as a legitimate boxer, but Jake Paul made a name for himself. You got to give him that. And now Tommy Fury has made a name for himself. And he is now not just the little brother of Tyson Fury, the world champion. He is now an entity all his own. And I promise you, off the strength of this victory over Jake Paul, he has put himself in a position where he can go to his promoter and say, I want a title shot, even at only 9-0, even only after 9 fights, he can say, I want a title shot because he derailed the boxing career of Jake Paul. So the question is, what's next for Jake Paul? Does he continue to fight? Does he continue to put himself in a position to make big money on pay-per-view? Will the people want to support him now that he's lost? Like I said, Jake Paul needed to win, because Jake Paul needs to win in order to maintain that feeling of, I need to see this guy fight. He's lost now. There's a 1 behind his name now. So how does that calculate? How does that resonate moving forward as it relates to future fights? If he chooses to, I believe he'll choose to continue. I believe he does have love for the fight game, but he's really going to have difficulty getting people to buy his fights on pay-per-view. So I just wanted to come on here and say, big shout out to everybody out there who watched the fight. Big shout out to Fight TV. I am a contributor for Fight TV's boxing analyst and analytics. And, I'm so happy to be with you guys on tonight. It's not going to be a long video, a long podcast. I just wanted to come on and say, I told you so. I told you so. And the question is, once again, what happens now? What happens to Jake Paul's boxing career? I have to say that I think there's a distinct possibility. I'm hoping not, because if the brother has aspirations of being a world-class boxer, who am I to knock him? But I think that in this unique situation, a loss, even though it's only his first loss, is a major, major step back in Jake Paul's career. And we just have to wait and see what happens. As for Tommy Fury, wow, you would put yourself right in the mix, dude. You would put yourself right in the mix for a possible cruiserweight world championship fight, because you have knocked off the problem child. You have knocked off the YouTube sensation. You have knocked off Jake Paul. You already know what it is, man. Make sure you check out me and my brother Conrad Cushman on Clash of the Podcast tomorrow night, 6:05 Eastern time. For tonight, I'm Sean Hubbard, and we'll holler at you next time. I told you. Later.